I like to start each presentation by going over the objectives of what I hope you will learn from it. First of all, I want you to understand what a process walk is and the steps and requirements of that activity. You should also gain a better understanding of the roles and responsibility of Kaizen participants. There are also quite a few Kaizen process walk forms that are available to you. We'd like you to gain a working knowledge of what these forms are and how they are used. We'd like you to learn how to identify your data collection needs. And finally, we want you to understand what you are expected to accomplish during your process walk. A good place to start is by talking about what a process walk actually is. Basically, it is just a deep dive into the nuts and bolts of a process in order to gain a highly detailed understanding of how an operation is performed. The goal is to quickly become an expert on the current state of that work. The reason we do a process walk instead of just relying upon the knowledge of team members or information recorded in process documents is that there is no substitute for going to Gemba. Gemba is a Japanese term that loosely translated means the actual place where work is done. Seeing the process firsthand does two things. First, it educates those people that don't work in that process area. Second, it makes the people that do work in that area look at the process in an unfiltered way. They see it as a newcomer would see it. On the shop floor, when doing a process walk, you're looking at a physical product. In the office, the work you're looking at is often information about a product. The information might even be the product itself. This presents a special set of challenges. First of all, the specific piece of information you're watching may be a single piece of paper in a file. Even more difficult, it may be a folder located on a network drive that is accessed by people throughout the country. You sometimes have to get creative in how you observe and record this flow of information. When you watch a person assemble a widget, it is easy to see what they're doing. Every person clicking a mouse looks the same for the most part, regardless of what is on the screen. It can make it challenging to understand what the person is doing. Asking them about their steps slows them down and changes the nature of the observation. It is also difficult to follow office work start to finish. There are notoriously large piles of work between each person in the process. Think of a home loan application. The bank may put just a handful of hours of touch time into the file, but it can take weeks to wind its way through all of the steps to approve it. That means that in an office process walk, you'll be more likely to observe and record a Frankenstein patchwork of items in process. This speeds things up considerably, but also introduces some inaccuracy. On the shop floor, work is generally handed to the person immediately downstream. Of course, sometimes work does need to be transported, but common sense dictates that there is an advantage to keeping processes close together, so people instinctively try to shorten distances. In the office, however, physical files are much easier to transport than large, heavy objects. In the modern world, more and more work is done electronically. This means that the flow of office work bounces around much more than you would see on the shop floor. Depending upon the layout of your facility and the nature of the work, there may be a fair bit of walking. The final challenge you'll have is that office work is often done in small cubicles. People do not need much space to do their work, and they generally do not move around much. That means that it will be a challenge to have a full Kaizen team observe a worker. Try to get creative so as many people as possible can observe the actual process a person is doing. The steps of a process walk are relatively simple. Your first task will be to assign roles. We'll talk about these jobs in just a moment. Before you go down and talk to anybody in the work area, make sure you have a plan. You want to disturb them as little as possible. Also, make sure you cover all of the bases so you don't have to go back and gather up any additional information. Once your planning is complete, go observe the process. The team should regroup once the observation is complete and consolidate the information. As they look over the data they have collected, the team will often uncover additional questions or gaps in their information. In these cases, the team should send a small group back to close out any information gaps on what they need to know to make improvements.